All right, it's recording.
Okay. Oh, it is? This is Perhaps It's You. Bitterest podcast out there. I don't even know why I said that. I'm Liz. Samantha's over there.
I'm here.
We have a special guest today, our resident history nerd, Rochelle. We brought her back. She had such a bad time talking about Alcatraz with us that...
I'm surprised she's even friends with us anymore.
I know. I wouldn't be if someone made me talk about Alcatraz.
You're like, here's this thing we don't want to talk about. Here we go.
Welcome to our podcast.
Did I not do that for this episode as well?
You picked this.
You picked this one. We asked Rochelle to pick.
We said when we brought Rochelle on to talk about Alcatraz that she could pick the next thing that she came on to talk about. Did she pick the thing that might be even more boring than Alcatraz? And I went, why were we complaining about Alcatraz when there was this stupid Nazi mystery I don't care about? So boring.
Yeah. So you asked for this, Rochelle.
Yeah, it's your fault.
Yeah, my own fault.
Did I fall asleep twice watching this? It took me 3 times to make it for the segment. I'm an insomniac.
Did this mystery give you nightmares? I saw something on Twitter.
I fell asleep watching it yesterday, which was the second time that happened. And then I had a weird dream about my grandfather watching like a murder mystery on PBS with me and really liking it, which would not have happened. That was not his jam.
No.
So your nightmare was more boredom?
It wasn't a nightmare. It was just a weird... I was like, why am I dreaming about my dead grandfather? And I was like, because I fell asleep watching an old people show, Unsolved Mysteries. But he was not into Unsolved Mysteries because he was very against even like very mild television violence. So he would not have been into Unsolved Mysteries. Rochelle just gave me a look of disdain.
Yeah.
He's gone, Rochelle. It doesn't matter how you feel.
Okay.
He's on the other side.
Okay.
Rochelle, you picked this one. Do you now regret picking this one?
Yes.
I'm not surprised.
Okay. Liz told me, okay, find something you like in season 2. I went to like season episode 8, looked at all the like little mini bios on Amazon.com to see like the description. I was like, Rudolf Hess, I remember that name. Sure, why not? And that's pretty much all that happened.
To be fair, season 2's not offering a whole lot. So
no, it has been... I'm sorry, listeners.
It's not been great.
It's been dull so far.
The highlight was the nudist colony mystery, and
by far,
that's been it. And that was in like episode 3 or something.
Yeah, it's been a little bit of a slog. We promised we would watch every single one, so we're doing it.
We feel committed, but yeah, we had that mystery with all the dogs that died. We had just had some like brutal, sad, like I don't know, nothing good.
This one I can't explain why I find it so boring, but it was literally putting me to sleep. Did we both say the wrong name last week?
Yeah, it turns out we fucked this up before we even started this episode.
It's Rudolf Hess, not
Herman Hesse.
Author Herman Hesse, famous for whitewashing Buddhism with Siddhartha. No, that's not who we're talking about. Clearly, high school English classes traumatized me forever. And when I even was like in my brain, like, Liz, don't say the wrong name. Because I knew I was going to. I was like, don't say the wrong name. Don't say that. And then I did. So we had to bring in an expert because we can't be trusted with this mystery.
No, and we're going to try and keep our Hesses straight. Liz has proposed that maybe we just make up our own names for this dude. Rusty Hess.
I was going to call him Rusty Hess.
He's a Rusty at heart.
Yeah.
Truly.
Sheriff Pat Hess.
That's another one.
Bumpy the Hess.
Bumpy the Hess?
I don't know.
That's my favorite one.
Okay,
so far.
Also, my other outrage before we started recording today is that I found out that neither Rochelle nor Samantha know anything about Indiana Jones.
Are you going to talk about nothing else this whole episode?
Yes,
because I don't know how to talk about Nazis and not talk about Indiana Jones. And then both of you were like, I think maybe I've seen one, and my heart shattered into 1,000 pieces.
It's quite possible that I haven't seen...
How is that possible?
You had to see the Nazis melt like wax. At least that like GIF image of the Nazi.
That rings no bells for me. I don't know what
you're
saying.
I
don't understand how you spent your childhoods, and you've missed out on a very attractive Harrison Ford, and also an important lesson about the importance of archaeology and how terrible Nazis are. See, I would have thought everyone knew that, but here we are in this day and Nazis
are?
Yes.
Well, no, not everyone knows that.
I thought the moral of basically every single movie was, you know what, Nazis are bad. And I would go, yeah, obviously they are. Everybody hates Nazis. But here we are in 2018, and Nazis are like, I don't know, a thing again somehow? We have to punch them in the face? But yeah. I don't know how to talk to either of you about this subject about Indiana Jones.
I mean, you can make references. I'm not saying we're going to understand them.
I know.
Liz looks very exasperated.
Looking out the window, just like, I'm just done with you guys.
I know nothing about music or movies. That's just a fact.
I don't feel like I know a lot about movies, but it's fucking Indiana Jones.
I don't know what to tell you.
I feel like it's also like too late. You know what I mean?
I don't know. Is Nicolas Cage in one of those movies?
Oh God.
If you could see Liz's face.
I'm gonna cry. I'm gonna weep. No, fucking Harrison Ford is in those movies.
In all of them?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Sean Connery's the dad.
There's not a single one with Nick Cage?
No.
That's
Because
National Treasure.
Oh, that's National Treasure.
And Liz is
people
about to
would
quit the
have
podcast.
rioted if they recast Indiana Jones as Nicolas Cage. That would be unacceptable.
say
They tried to cast
guy.
Shia LaBeouf as the
That's
next.
his son.
Shia? Is Shia in
I
one
don't
of these?
give a fuck.
Or like, I don't know.
He was
no
in
one
one
likes
of them.
that one. That's the new one.
The one with Shia in it?
It's not even that new anymore. Yeah.
like 10 years ago.
Isn't Shia like just doing weird like art installations around the world these
this was
days?
before that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm also don't
He's
care.
doing that thing where he like you go into a room with him and he just stares at you. Did
That's
you
what
hear
art
about
is
that?
now.
So is he
Yeah,
trying to be Joaquin Phoenix 10 years ago?
Maybe, probably.
Okay.
Anyway, we do have to talk about Rudolf Hess.
I'm just gonna be too busy crying that you thought Nicolas Cage was in Indiana Jones.
She thinks his
I
own
didn't
National
think he was-
Treasure
I
is
just
on par.
asked. Thanks for clearing that up for me.
Yeah.
We're across the table from each other. We're fine. We can't fight because
I'm
otherwise,
trying to.
what would this podcast be?
The thing is, I could ask you like any question about horses, and it would sound just as stupid to you.
Probably. Well, sure.
Because I don't know anything about horses.
I don't
Where
know anything
do you
about-
get their fancy shoes, Samantha?
Farrier brings them to you.
Oh.
What the fuck is that?
Yeah, what's a farrier?
It's like a blacksmith, is what they would be called in the olden days.
Why aren't they still called that?
I really don't know the answer to that one.
That's a bullshit answer. I don't know.
I think it's because they don't make the shoes anymore, like blacksmiths.
Oh.
Also, blacksmiths didn't just do horses; they did all kinds of metal work.
Sure.
Whereas farriers just do.
They're just dedicated to horseshoes.
Yeah, and they also do things like trim the horse's feet in special ways. Like if it has a foot problem, they'll like
Oh.
do a special trim to make them heal faster.
Did you watch My Little Ponies as a child and be like, this is so unrealistic?
I was never into My Little Pony.
Oh.
No, because I actually rode horses, so that just seemed dumb to me.
Well, it was pretty dumb, but also great. I mean,
What about My Friend a Horse?
Yeah, what about My Friend the Horse?
Discount My Little Pony.
That we are going to be selling as merch.
As merch. We have a long list of merch we need to get on top of.
Bigfoot bug spray.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of things I want to put out there.
Rochelle, would you buy some Bigfoot bug spray from us?
It keeps Bigfoots away and also bugs.
If it did bugs, yes. But Bigfoot, I can't substantiate that's actually gonna do anything.
We're
but
wearing some right now. Do you see a Bigfoot in this
Yeah.
room?
See how well
It's
it's working?
working.
Your logic is flawed, but sure.
It is not flawed.
I mean, there's an
airtight-
alien here.
Yeah.
There's a Lenny Briscoe here, but there's no Bigfoots here.
Lenny is pooped from our little outing.
Yes, today is the May Day parade in South Minneapolis, so we were there
Happy May
It's a beautiful day for a parade
enjoying
today.
the festivities. The blizzard is long gone, long memory.
Yep.
It's a beautiful sunny.
Snow is dead to us now.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
basically summer now.
It's like 80 degrees. So
Yeah.
nice out.
Was there any other updates? Basically, we don't even know who we're talking about in this episode.
Yeah,
I don't think
sorry
There's
about
three.
it.
I only had to watch one.
Rochelle's
there's three.
like, it's all about amnesia.
Yeah.
One of them was a Nazi. The other two people, we don't know that they were Nazis.
This episode
Rudolf
felt
Hess
so
wa-
long.
Yes.
Like the
As
Nazi
a person
segment,
that kept falling asleep, I can confirm that yes,
the
it felt
Nazi
really
segment
long.
was so long, and then there were two other mysteries that were full-length mysteries.
Yeah.
So
I don't even
this
know
is
how
quite the
it
episode.
defied the laws of time and space. Because for how long that Rudolf Hess session is, that should have been a full hour. There shouldn't be time for other mysteries.
It seems like that Rudolf Hess mystery may have originally aired as a two-parter,
It does say parts 1 and 2.
and they've combined it for Amazon. So I think it's
Why?
longer than it was intended to be.
Why?
Because no one could sit through all of that. So I don't know how we made it. Anyway, should we start?
Yeah, I guess.
I
Okay.
suppose.
So we
Samantha, give us the rundown.
Yeah, okay. So we begin with Robert Stack telling us that this is a special segment which takes us to Scotland and Germany, where experts claim it was not Hess who made the momentous flight, but a double impersonating him.
Isn't the phrase experts a little misleading because it's really one dude? Should it be plural
They
experts?
also said experts like 5 times in the first 2 minutes. I'm like, little heavy, little heavy.
Yeah, they're really wanting you to know. So we'll get into it, but there's this flight that takes place where Rudolf Hess flies to Scotland, and people claim that was not him, and we'll talk about who Rudolf Hess is in a second. So, 1933, Adolf Hitler seizes total power in Germany, and while Robert Stack is narrating this, we're seeing a lot of footage of the war and of Hitler and...
Also, Robert Stack just standing in a room full of swastikas.
Yeah, Robert Stack was in like a Hitler museum or something, a Nazi museum at some point.
I hope it was.
They never described what that was.
No, and I hope it's not just like someone's house, because that's
A
terrifying.
shrine to Nazism? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it was weird that they never explained why he was in that place. So, by
He
Hitler's
had a
side...
special Hitler bunker that I've never mentioned before.
Well, my Hitler
It's like
paraphernalia.
Robert Stack's own property. He's like, coming to you live from my Hitler room.
So, by Hitler's side is Deputy Reichsführer. How do you pronounce that, Rochelle? Help me.
Let me take the paper.
Help me. I've heard this word.
How many unibrows did this person have?
Well, he had 2 regular brows. They were just gigantic.
Were they the size of unibrows, though?
I don't know.
No,
Yeah.
I still testify he's a love child between Henry Rollins and Sam the Eagle from the Muppets. Deputy Führer is essentially the easiest
Deputy
name.
Führer. I just sometimes I can't pronounce things. So it's Rudolf Hess. Hess was Hitler's closest confidant and will come to figure in one of the most remarkable mysteries of World War II.
Fart noise. Not right.
Yeah, Rochelle is making some side-eye at that. Isn't there a special about, like, Hitler's sharks?
What? In Unsolved Mysteries?
No.
Oh.
Just like, you know how everything on the History Channel is basically about Hitler or sharks?
Yeah.
Or their
Well,
cults
that's the
with
Discovery
aliens.
Channel
Oh.
that has Shark Week.
Maybe there's not really a special called Hitler's Sharks. Maybe
I call
just
the History
assumed.
Channel Hitler Channel, and even I can't watch all of that because
Well, okay, what about Hitler's sharks? He had sharks?
I might be making that up.
it might be like Dr. Evil that wanted freaking laser beams on the sharks' heads. But
It
yeah,
could have been. I mean, maybe he did have sharks. I don't know. In 1941, the world is astounded to learn that Rudolf Hess has been captured in Scotland, attempting to deliver a peace proposal to secret contacts in the British government.
dun dun dun.
What?
Yes. In 1946, in Nuremberg, Hess is sentenced to life in prison.
Good.
About time.
And then, in 1987, Hess is found dead in West Berlin's Spandau prison. He is found in the garden. The cause of death is officially declared a suicide, but his family and, I put in quotation marks, experts are convinced it was murder.
Also, this one guy is insisting that we should care whether or not he was murdered, and I was like, sorry, I don't.
93-year-old Nazi war criminal. I think it's
like,
fine.
no one cares.
Like, did I kill him? Because I would be okay with that.
Yeah, he's
Also-
dead. That's all that matters.
Also, my one
the
big
world's
thing.
a better place because of it.
Yeah. But my one big thing for the whole thing is it's known he's tried to kill himself before. This isn't the first, second, third, or fourth. I think it's the 4th or 5th time he tried to kill himself. So
But
I'm not
was it
accused-
murder, Rochelle? Okay.
He was 93. He's older than most people who make it.
But
I'm
they
sorry.
didn't want him to talk about English secrets, even though he had been in that prison that
For
whole time and
46
could have
years.
told it at any point. They killed him.
They're just grasping at straws.
Yeah, it does seem like it. Colonel Eugene Bird, who was an army person at Spandau prison for some reason. Okay, so this is what I didn't understand at the beginning.
Okay.
I'm just following my notes where they lead me, which is I was confused at first about why there was an American prison guard at this prison, but turns out like this was a special prison only for Nazi war criminals, and it was jointly run, right,
Yeah.
by like Americans, French.
British and Russia.
Yeah.
And they change monthly. Their
Is that how it
duties.
worked?
Yeah, so there's a changing of the guard every month. The Nazi war criminals that didn't just get killed right away at the Nuremberg trials, they all ended up at that prison. Some in the 50s and some in the 60s got let out, but he had to stay in there because
Why didn't they execute him? What was the... Do you know how they made that decision?
the worst thing that he ever did was he signed off some of the Nuremberg laws back in the when he was in Germany, basically saying like being mean to the Jewish people but not putting them straight up in concentration camps. By the time he actually got caught, he wasn't in that power place anymore, so he didn't physically do anything against people personally,
he
but
wasn't-
the things he signed off on
Okay.
started up that transition.
So
of bringing
he
that
wasn't
going on.
considered, like, directly responsible for the Holocaust. He was just
Oh,
responsible.
he still was. Because he was the second or third. He was
See, that's why I don't understand.
best
Why
bros with
wouldn't he be
Hitler.
executed?
But he was kind of like a demented, fanatical Boy Scout. He was loyal to Hitler, and he was an anti-Semitic asshole. But he didn't really search for power. He just wanted to keep what he thought was going correct. So he wasn't corrupt for money and power. He wasn't trying to destroy other people within his community and without. And he did actually get some people free just because he was friends with them.
I'm kind of surprised none of the guards killed him. You know what I mean?
Or
Oh,
did
they?
they?
Dun, dun,
No,
dun.
they didn't. They let him live 46 years and then they
To
murdered
be fair, it cost them $1 million a year to have him there.
him. Yeah. I'm not for the death penalty,
No.
but he is a fucking Nazi. So.
Right. So this Eugene Bird was a American prison guard in some capacity at Spandau, and he assures us that he is no Nazi sympathizer.
A thing that you shouldn't have to say, but go on.
But he does think that Hess deserves the dignity to know who murdered him.
I really don't think that's true.
Yeah, first of all, he's dead. Second of all, no one gives a shit.
I remember... all right. Here's me telling a story with, like, absolutely no details.
Stuff Indiana Jones in it?
No. Unlike all good stories. But some Nazi was dying on their deathbed and, like, asked for a Holocaust survivor to come and then, like, begged for forgiveness. And as he died, like, the person was just like, I couldn't decide what to do. So then it, like, was sent out. I don't remember if this is real or just, like, a
Reader's Digest thing.
But that was sent out to, like, all these great, you know, philosophical minds. Like, would you have forgiven him or not? And so lots of people wrote about, like, the power of forgiveness. And then lots of people were like, no, you don't owe him an apology. And then one person was like, I would have strangled him as he lay in that bed dying. And that was the response that I was like, yep, that's the right answer.
Yep.
I can't deny that. That's not... Yeah, I said throat punch before, so yeah I know where my
I don't care
options are.
if someone murdered this guy, but it doesn't seem like that's
I
even
don't
true.
I don't think that person deserves forgiveness and death. Sorry. Does that make me a bad person? He's a fucking Nazi.
I don't think so. Obviously.
So next we see Robert Stack in a Nazi museum, question mark.
I hope it's a Nazi
His
museum.
basement.
He tells us that startling new evidence suggests that the man at Spandau may not have been the real Rudolf Hess. He goes on to say...
I don't believe that.
That what ties these events together is a global conspiracy that began at the start of World War II.
Ooh, scary.
I know.
Unlike all those other conspiracies that were going on.
There's a few.
This seems like such a minor part of, like,
I know.
the whole war. Do you know what I mean?
It
This seems
really is.
Are you pissing off some
inconsequential.
World War II?
Probably.
No,
Bob
not
Saget?
really.
This
Because
is not my thing. I think everybody knows that because I couldn't even get his name right, and that's why we had to bring in Rochelle.
Okay. I listened to a couple audiobooks and read a couple books because I wanted to have all this stupid shit in my head for a little bit, apparently.
No, it will never leave.
Oh, it will leave. There'll be
You'll
stupid
be a
90s
Nazi
music.
expert forever.
But the two actual books that I read, interesting rumors that they could come up
What,
with
that
from
Hitler
Hitler.
only had one ball?
And then he was a homosexual.
Is
and
that
then
true?
Supposedly.
That is supposedly actually pretty true. But there's a lot of trashy rumors, and then they had like 5 little mentions of Hess in it. And then in my book called The Short History of World War II, that's like 500 pages. He's not even in it.
He's not.
No,
No,
he was
like
supposed
he's
to be
not.
second in command.
He was a puppet. It was a puppet position. He didn't have any legit power. He was like, you're my friend that looks up to me and will do whatever I want, but you will never try to take power from me. So yeah, you can be the second command. That's totally fine.
Also, you spend no time grooming your eyebrows, so that won't get in the way of your duties.
Oh my god, those eyebrows. Do you think there were things living in those eyebrows?
I mean, other eyebrows?
Small
Yes.
birds,
Yeah.
perhaps? In 1973, a British surgeon named Hugh Thomas did a detailed physical examination of Hess. Thomas knew Hess's history and expected to see scars from bullet wounds that Hess had received in the First World War. So, spoiler alert, this Hugh Thomas is the expert.
He's the only one.
That Rudolf Hess was not
Well,
who he
also
said he
Lenny
was.
Briscoe, but he can't even speak English.
Well, yeah, I'm sure Lenny Briscoe has all kinds of conspiracy theories.
You don't even want to know.
He's yes. Like I can't even say that.
Yeah.
Thomas finds the official record of Hess's wounds and subsequent surgeries. Thomas is of the opinion that what he sees on the man in Spandau and what he reads in Hess's medical records completely contradict each other. He says it can't be the same man.
Doesn't specify what, and it's only 50 years between, but wounds don't change or age, or there's nothing that changes over time.
I like that this
on
guy
body.
thinks he would know better than his own, like, Hess's own wife.
Yeah. Also, this is basically the only evidence they put forth to support that this was not Hess.
And there was no actual photos or anything that you could have justified. It's just I don't think it
It's
looks
just
like
that he was shot, and I didn't see the scars I expected to see.
He's
don't know.
great at healing, like Wolverine. I don't know. And, I mean, they kept
Really
saying
legit.
experts, and it's literally this
It's
one
really
guy.
just one guy, unless you count this Eugene Bird, because he seems to think. Well, actually, Eugene, we'll get to it later, but he doesn't think it wasn't Hess. He just thinks that Hess was murdered. So really, it is just this Thomas Hughes, Hugh Thomas. What the fuck is his name?
Villain. I don't care.
I keep getting it wrong.
That
Whatever.
doesn't matter.
It's the guy with the British accent that your bullshit is still bullshit. It doesn't matter if it has an accent.
It sounds a little more believable.
Yeah.
No.
It gives
I'll
it
admit.
some authority.
But
it's still wrong.
It's still bullshit. So Robert Stack next asks, then who was he? if he was not Hess? The answer may lie in a series of events that took place in May of 1941. So, on May 10th, Hess tells his wife that he is flying to Berlin for an important meeting, and he will be back in 3 days.
This was the weirdest moment, because it's like someone going off to work, saying goodbye to their family,
Yeah,
except he's a
quaint little
fucking
house.
Nazi, going off to do Nazi shit. I don't care if he, like, said a teary farewell to his family.
Yeah, they made it a little sympathetic.
Be a Nazi.
Yeah, the reenactment looked a little bit too quaint.
Like, oh,
Yeah, it was just like, and then he went off to work and he was never seen again. Oh, by the way, he was a Nazi war criminal.
Right.
It's like,
But he couldn't see his son for 20-something years. How sad.
Well, kind of brought that on himself.
Yeah.
Also,
Yeah.
named his son Wolf.
Nickname after Hitler. Yeah.
Don't do that. Don't name your children after Hitler.
Yeah.
I can't say
And
that
if you're
strongly.
named after
Or
Hitler?
other Nazi war criminals.
Maybe
Change your name. Yeah,
What?
that's not super cool. Names can be changed. You don't have to keep your Hitler name.
I think that is the
Don't
name
you remember
of
my
this
text
episode.
when I sent you about Wolf? I'm like, Wolf is such a second-generation Nazi name. Oh my god.
It is a second generation Nazi
It's not
name.
cool,
It is
Wolf.
not
Get it
cool.
together.
So Douglas McRoberts is an aviation expert and author. He says later that day, the real Rudolf Hess took off from Bavaria in southern Germany flying north. The aircraft had the serial number 1545 and the letters NJC11 painted on the side. The plane was tracked by German radar across Germany and occupied Europe. Around 7:15 p.m., the plane was lost to German radar going north over the North Sea.
Snooze.
Yeah, this is the most boring part, where they talk about planes. And
When
how
it
they
comes
work.
back, get to the fun part.
I know. So 4.5 hours after Rudolf Hess left Germany alone, I'm going to get this wrong. This is the name of a plane, and Robert Stack did a great job.
Messerschmitt.
Messerschmitt was picked up by British
good.
radar headed towards Scotland. So the thesis here is that Rudolf Hess took off from Germany and flew north, and then disappeared, and then this other guy swooped in.
Yeah, then where did Hess go?
Yeah, this makes no sense.
What happened to Hess if they, like...
Was he complicit in his own murder?
Why would they
swap plan?
Why would they switch places while in the air and not, like, any easier way?
It makes no sense.
Some way that wouldn't involve needing two planes.
This whole thing.
Just, like, go into a bathroom and
Also,
one of you comes out.
Also, especially because Rudolf Hess was in tight with the people that made the Messerschmitt plane, so he had a plane that wasn't out officially yet. So it was a rare plane in the first place. So you'd have to have two rare planes, and you have to be totally complicit. But the only way you could check people's names and numbers back then, until, like, especially if it's smaller planes, is just visual eye check. When it comes back, the letters that they have for that plane are like, oh, it's totally different. Yeah, because if you're squinting and trying to see numbers and letters on a frickin' plane, they might be wrong. Either way.
No room for human error.
Yeah.
So at 11 p.m., a Scottish farmer sees an aircraft descending rapidly. The plane crashes, but its pilot has parachuted to safety. The farmer confronts the pilot with a gun, demanding to know if he is German. The pilot, speaking German, tells him that he is Alfred Horn.
Speaking German says, no! Whatever do you ask?
I love your British comedies.
Yeah.
I am not a stereotype from the plague cabaret. What are you talking about?
So then this guy asks the farmer for a meeting with the Duke of Hamilton.
A thing you often do.
Yeah.
Just when I
do
see
like-
farmers, I'm like, hey, can I meet up with, like, the closest duke?
So the Duke of Hamilton is a member of the British Parliament who lived in the area. The man claiming to be Alfred Horn carried no identification, but he was wearing a Luftwaffe.
Luftwaffe.
I always want to say waffle, and there's
Yeah,
no
Luftwaffe.
L in it, except at
Yeah,
the beginning.
Luftwaffe.
Officer uniform. And then I looked it up, and Luftwaffe was the aerial branch of the combined German Wehrmacht military forces. Oh my goodness.
German Wehrmacht military forces during World War II.
Okay. So that seems to be like the
Air Force.
Yeah, the Air Force or something. Alfred gets his meeting with the Duke of Hamilton. During the meeting, the pilot reveals that he is actually Rudolf Hess. The man claiming to be Hess said that he had been sent by Hitler on a diplomatic peace mission, blah, blah, blah.
He didn't have any ID, but he was like, the brows check out.
Yeah, you could totally ID this guy by his brows. Those
No one
things-
else has brows like that. It must be Hess.
No one else has brows
Also,
like that.
who would want to claim to be Hess? Like, he was such a cool guy. Someone else was like, yeah, No, I'm willing to claim to be him and go to prison for 46 years.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's some serious dedication to your mission.
I think that proves that it actually. I think that proves that it actually is him because
else
he's
would
such a
do that?
loyal dog. He was such a loyal. He was called Fräulein Hess because he was such a ass kisser to Hitler and believed everything he said. To be fair, he did help write down Mein Kampf, but we'll get back to that later. Sorry.
So Hamilton was skeptical at first, but he was ultimately convinced that the man was indeed Rudolf Hess.
Because he looked at his props.
However, Winston Churchill remained suspicious. Churchill sent Yvonne Kirkpatrick, a diplomat who knew Hess personally, to meet with the man. Kirkpatrick also thought that the man was Rudolf Hess. Hugh Thomas, again, who was the doctor who examined Hess when he was in prison, says that the mistakes these men made were incredible. The man claiming to be Hess told them that he was born in 1899, but when he first landed, he said 1897. In actuality, Hess's real birthday was 1894.
And no one has ever lied about their age.
Like, that is the incredible mistake that these men made.
Yeah, it's incredible.
That he got... Listen, if someone asks me on the spot to say what year I was born, sometimes you stumble over that. And he said the wrong year, and that means he's not Rudolf Hess. This makes no sense.
It's just him. I don't really see any mystery here.
So it's believed that Hitler and his other higher-ups often used doubles for security reasons. Thomas believes that a double was recruited to impersonate Hess.
Or a shark.
I can see
Maybe a shark.
I can see Hitler having a double or two, just like Saddam Hussein used to back in the day, and other people. Like, if you're the top person, you don't really need a double for Rudolf Hess and some of the other ones. Like,
Yeah,
So
seems
a
like he
double
was
for
that
Hitler
important.
seems pretty easy because you just put a stupid mustache on a guy and everybody's like, oh yeah,
Right,
that's
and
it.
everyone sees him from like
which
a
Charlie
distance
Chaplin
anyway.
was so pissed off about, by the
Well,
way.
he did permanently ruin a style of mustache. Mac asked me if Hitler was going to be the most valuable mustache of this episode. I
No,
was like,
he's defaulted
Of
no.
course not.
no.
I will do
Well,
Hess's eyebrows before.
Someone doesn't listen to this podcast, doesn't know that dirtbags are not eligible for MVM. So obviously we're not giving it to Hitler.
I think
No Nazis are allowed to be most
No.
memorable mustache.
No, well, they're all dirtbags.
But we can have
definitely.
most valuable eyebrows.
I think the eyebrows are the size of two mustaches.
Right.
Yes.
So-
and they are
Double mustache.
legitimately
They're huge.
furry caterpillars.
I mean, I can't really talk about anything else because also I might fall asleep.
Well, because I think, like, you guys were like when the reenactment, you're like, oh, those are actually
Yeah,
what
Rochelle
they look
sent
like.
me a photo of real Rudolf Hess, and the eyebrows are accurate. Now, I don't think these were that man's real eyebrows.
No,
I
they're
think
fake as hell, but-
yeah, they're glued on. But they did a pretty good job of replicating the real Rudolf Hess's eyebrows. They were impressive.
Reenactor Hess's fake eyebrows are most valuable mustache?
Sure.
Yes. Okay.
This is our
Possibly.
podcast. We can make the
Not
rules.
Hitler.
No, man.
Okay. What's
Also,
hilarious
that's
is-
not a legitimate mustache.
No.
It's too small.
I mean, he ruined
And it's full
it.
of hate, and I don't like it.
And also, Michael Jordan had it for a while. Wasn't that so weird?
Oh my god.
Yeah.
When we started this podcast and we said there was going to be 5 listeners, we were like, oh yeah, because Mac and Samantha's fiance Travis and
That's 2.
are going to listen to us. Guess who doesn't listen to us?
Neither one of them. Neither one of them listen to this podcast.
Fair enough. They have to listen to us babble all the
I know.
time. They're not like
When they're not around
seeking
us,
out-
they're like,
they
thank
get the pre-show
God.
and the post-show. They're
Yeah,
good.
they are
Yeah.
good. I don't know why we thought they would listen to
I don't
this.
know why either.
So they're not part of the 5 at all.
No.
For shame.
Which means they don't know the rules. Mac.
Mac.
Who's not listening.
Yeah, shame on you.
So, photographs taken of Hess just before he took off from Germany supports this theory. I put that in quotation marks. Supports this theory. They show a different plane than the one that crash landed in Scotland.
Could also just be in front of the wrong plane, or
Yeah, I don't know. As we learned earlier, the plane that took off from Germany was marked NJC-11. It was photographed taking off, and an assistant at the airport logged it in his book. The plane that crashed in Scotland was marked VJ or NJOQ.
they cannot
Yeah.
even.
Rochelle has this very helpfully written down, and it's like, could you mistake a V for an N or a D for an O very easily?
Yes.
So,
People be stupid, and also it's a paper trail, which is handwritten.
yeah,
it's not like
it's
there's
clerical errors.
Yeah.
human errors, you guys. It happens everywhere, even with Nazis.
I mean,
aside from the whole thinking
they did
killing
love
people
record keeping, but
they just tried to destroy some of it. But yeah, they were very thorough on that.
So we talk again to that aviation expert we met earlier, and he tells us that the plane that was found in the field in Scotland was almost entirely intact. Not only that, but it was also brand new. The machine guns mounted to the front of the plane were still packed with grease. I really don't know what that means.
They haven't been fired before, is what he's saying.
Yeah, but what does that have to do with?
He's trying to say, like, oh my gosh, like, it was his plane, not realizing he had a brand new, well, he didn't have a brand new plane, but he had a plane that basically he just did practice flights on and then did this flight with. He never shot anyone with the plane. He wasn't able to sign up and actually be killing people as a Nazi in a plane.
Paperwork and shit.
Though, no, he did try to do it, and Hitler gave him a ban and said, like, hey, you cannot actually go out and shoot people. Not that he was that terrible, but because he was a World War II soldier, so he felt like he was compelled to do that. Yeah.
Huh. British researchers know that specific aircraft was based at a fighter airfield in northern Denmark called Aalborg. It was tracked in from that direction, and according to this guy, there really seems no reason to doubt that it came from Denmark rather than Germany.
Denmark is right above Germany, so I don't know why this is a huge...
Yeah, I don't know. Okay. Beats me.
I think these people have too much time on their hands. That's something I hate to say because we're running a podcast for no reason, but... and I waste time in all sorts of ways, but... This is not a thing.
This just doesn't make sense to me.
It's not an issue. Go learn to knit socks or something.
So Hess was a skilled pilot, yet the man who flew to Scotland made a number of mistakes. According to this aviation expert, he did everything wrong. So he approached the British coast at the ideal height to be intercepted by radar instead of flying under it.
Lenny is like snoring from like half under the buffet because he's so tired from going to the parade.
Lenny. So cute.
He's just like passed
Can
out.
the rest of this podcast just be us looking at Lenny?
Yeah. He had the happiest day.
He had a great day.
He
smelled so many smells.
All the parades and the dogs.
He peed on so many things.
Yeah. Whew.
So anyway, they claim that because he flew in at the ideal height to be intercepted by a radar, that instead of flying under it, that means it wasn't Hess or something.
But was he trying to get under the radar?
No, I think he wanted
to go meet with
them
Duke.
to take him to the Duke of Hamilton. He wasn't trying to sneak into Scotland.
Makes
no sense.
Duke of Hamilton.
I want to do the Duke of Earl song and then Hamilton. One of the Broadway songs, but I can't remember anymore.
Apparently, he also power dived using too much fuel. Don't know what that means.
Maybe he wasn't that great of a pilot.
He didn't power dive. Well, he went up really tall so he could actually be high enough to evacuate and parachute out of the plane, and then it took a dive because there was no pilot in there anymore.
Well, and it seemed like there was nowhere to land. It wasn't like an airstrip. So he probably just purposely let the plane crash. He knew he was about to be out of.
He knew he was about to be out of gas, so he took enough so he could safely or try to get out of the plane, and then he doesn't care about the plane anymore because he's not in it.
Yeah, so then they say that he flew only 50 feet across the Scottish border. This means that people on the ground could track the aircraft, and that the pilot was too low to observe landmarks. I don't know.
We don't know that these things were his goal, and he screwed it up.
Right.
Like, he's going to meet with his Duke.
Right.
He had enough to basically just get there. That's all he cared about. He didn't care about doing it like a spy or doing something kick-ass. He was just, I needed to be able to get there, and that's what he did.
Right.
I find everything about this so annoying.
Yep.
Welcome to our podcast history buffs.
Shit pisses us off, yay.
So, next we see Robert Stack again, and this is where we start part 2.
Welcome to my Nazi basement,
he's says. Not in the Nazi basement anymore.
Oh.
And he says, so if this man was a double, how and why was this deception engineered? There is a theory that Heinrich Himmler was at the center of a conspiracy that reached from Hitler's inner circle to England's House of Parliament.
Bum, bum, bum.
Oh my god!
I don't care.
I know.
Yeah,
it's very difficult to care about this.
This is, I think, the point where I fell asleep both times.
You didn't want to know about the world conspiracy with the Parliament and all that?
Forget, Mel Zybel and his crystal bowl meditation I recommended for insomnia. This is the real ticket.
Right. So, next we learned that Hess rose to power simply by being one of Hitler's first loyal supporters. This made him a threat to Himmler, who aspired to gain control of the whole Reich.
It also made him a douche.
Yeah, Hess was basically hated and became part of a power struggle.
I mean, I hate him.
You can next tell that I was getting a little tired of taking notes because I wrote, so Hitler and his bros are prepping to invade the Soviet Union.
Okay, no. I was looking something up, but no, that's not the acceptable answer. Though, to be fair, I was going to use an example of Hitler and his boys being a boy band, so what do I know?
I mean, sure.
You can't say Hitler and his bros. That's not historically accurate.
Hitler and his
Technically
bros.
accurate, it is mostly bros, but
Yeah.
And they're preparing to invade the Soviet Union. And Hess and Himmler disagree on how to do this. Himmler wants to go balls out and show the world that they have the biggest dicks around.
But they don't have the biggest dicks around because they can't do the Russian front and the British front at the same time.
Hitler only has one ball.
Yeah, and probably a micropenis like the Golden State Killer. That's my theory. I'm putting it out there right now. Write that down.
I do like that theory.
Are you okay,
I have
Liz?
no comment on this entire subject. I've been hiding my face. I mean, it's hard to talk about Hitler and not talk about him only having one ball, I find.
Yeah.
Since I can't talk about fucking Indiana Jones.
You can, we just don't understand the reference.
Indiana Jones all you want. No one's stopping you.
You won't know what I'm saying. It's just not the same.
So,
I would have a problem because of the historical inaccuracies.
Himmler starts talking about occupying France, blah, blah, blah. Hess argues that they should pacify England.
As seen in Bedknobs and Broomsticks.
But do you guys get why, right?
To pacify England?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. One, they can't really rock two fronts at the same time. One front is obviously easier than having two. Also, the Windsor family, the royal family that we have now, used to be German, changed their last name. Royal family is of German lineage. And then Edward and his wife had Nazi sympathies. So there was a big scandal in the UK where the former King of England is shaking hands with people, Nazi officials, with the armbands and shit on their arms.
Oh, lovely.
So there was an actual legitimate, like, okay, yes, the British family has
everyone
half
in the
German.
UK, raid the palace. Do it now.
Which would be kind of cool. I'm not gonna lie. Back then, it could have been
Try
interesting.
those
but
crowns on and wear them out.
All this World War II stuff.
Just know that, like, there was a legitimate reason, not just the royal family, but a lot of the people that had money did have connections to German and other shit like that. And they're, it's a generation removed from World War I. So they were anti-German in the first place.
Okay.
So that's all you really need. As much as British people don't like French people, they only like German people slightly more.
The problem with World War II, I feel like, is it's just so much. Yeah, there's no way I could even get...
And it's not like, there's all these records of it, and a lot of people in the U.S. are connected to something about the war,
the family,
immigration, or whatever. So people have these like personal ties to it. So I think we're very
and we scratched the surface
in
high school. If you took history in college, maybe, but like there's just so much more, and there's no way I could even retain a quarter of the information.
No.
And yeah, we're probably gonna get a ton of shit wrong, which is why we brought Rochelle, because Rochelle knows
I'm gonna
what's
fuck
up.
all of it up, yay! But no, it's also.
I don't know. Somehow I've read like multiple books on the history of beekeeping for just my own personal fun time, but this I'm immediately like, what? I just not anything about war.
I think for a lot of people, if they don't have like the family connection, it's a lot of. It's essentially the last war that most people can say. Allied, good. Axis, Germany, Japan, and Italy, bad thing. But pretty much everyone agrees that, hey, Nazis suck. That's what we learned in movies. That's what we learned at school.
Well, you guys didn't learn it well enough.
Well, my friends that are from Germany are like, no, we're taught that Nazis suck.
Oh, well, it's illegal to have, like, Nazi paraphernalia in Germany.
Yeah.
Like,
but
take that very seriously.
But think about how weird that would be to be like, if on our side, if none of our grandparents or parents could have anything about World War II. How much a lot of them are still into it.
I think it's super creepy, whatever room Robert Stack's in, that Nazi room.
That just has flags everywhere.
Yeah, it's disgusting to look at, isn't it?
It is.
Any room with more than one flag is kind of questionable to me in the first place. But yeah, especially Nazi flags.
It's very... It makes me think of, in The People vs. O.J. Simpson, there was that really great shot of Mark... What the fuck's his name?
Furman?
Yes. Mark Furman, he's like in his house and he like
he has all that Nazi shit
cleaning the glass case where and then you're just like because you know what's gonna happen,
right?
But you're just like he's the worst, look, he's got a case of Nazi shit.
Yeah, you shouldn't have cases of Nazi shit.
No.
I like World War II history. I don't have Nazi shit.
Do you have one of those pointy German hats from World War I?
No. Why would I?
I don't know.
Anyway, we're back in Germany.
Samantha's like,
She's like, all this?
God, stay on track.
Himmler and Hess are disagreeing about their strategy. Himmler wants to go all out, and
I think he said balls out.
Yeah. Balls out.
It's a technical term.
Himmler wants to go balls out and invade everyone. He starts talking about occupying France, blah, blah, blah. Hess argues that they should pacify and take a gentler approach. He wants to pacify Germany's relationship with England. Hess thought that they should secure peace with England before they make their move into the Soviet Union. And he secretly tried to contact members of the British Parliament.
Yeah, he wanted a Nazi-Anglo kind of connection because England was kind of the last ones that colonized and knew what they were doing. So he thought, they don't agree with everything.
Colonize, help us out.
Yeah, you guys know how to be complete assholes, and I settled here, so I get to take over this land. So teach us some stuff, because obviously you are pretty good at it.
Right. So Hugh Thomas basically claims that Himmler has the real Hess killed, although that's not super clear to me. Somehow he wants to kill Hess and send a body double on a peace mission to England to carry a peace proposal to the English hierarchy. The plan is that if the peace offering had been successful, Himmler would have stepped in, finished the negotiations, and claimed the credit. If it had been unsuccessful, well then, Hess captured it out of the way anyway. I don't understand this.
Most books say that, like, Hitler, nobody was supposed to know, so this theory is complete bullshit.
They claim that Hitler knows nothing about it. This still doesn't make any sense to me, because Thomas is claiming that the real Hess got on a plane, flew north.
Where?
Then what, his plane was shot down, and then this other plane flew in? That makes no sense. They don't explain what happened to the real Hess.
What they should have done is, if it actually would have worked out, then that's when he could have gone there and had him killed. And then
when does this body double come in? I don't understand. It makes no sense.
A dragon snatches the real Hess's plane out of the sky.
Is this the Hobbit?
And then the fake Hess takes off from Denmark
with the One Ring and goes
Germany.
to Mordor. I'm all in.
I wish we were talking about the Hobbit. I wish we were talking about sports.
Anything else.
I wish we were talking about Alcatraz.
No.
What?
I think I hate this the most.
This is bad.
Do you guys hate everything the most, or just this the most?
I enjoyed Alcatraz more than I enjoyed this. Because at least Alcatraz has, like, a prison. You get to see Alcatraz. You get to see the
craft time where they made those heads.
This is just nothing that I care about.
It's a nothing burger.
Yeah. So they claim that Hitler knew nothing about this. He also claims...
But the plan just negates what they just...
I know. Okay. Well, I guess there's different experts, and they have different theories, and they don't all
Except the only expert in this is Hugh Thomas.
It's dumb.
So he also claims that there was a faction of British Parliament that was made up of Nazi sympathizers, and that they were plotting to depose Churchill and make their own separate peace with Germany. This was apparently the opinion of Stalin, and Hugh Thomas believes that Stalin was correct.
If Stalin thought it, I don't know that we should be taking Stalin's word on anything.
No.
Churchill refused to meet with Hess, and the peace overture was it's rejected, and the possibly fake Hess attempted suicide a few days later. The British military interrogated him, but he claimed amnesia and refused to answer any questions. They eventually sent him back to Germany for the Nuremberg trial.
Good. This is also the amnesia episode.
Yeah, there's amnesia in every...
Even more than in usual Unsolved Mysteries, this is, like, amnesia central. Samantha is looking at her watch because she cannot wait to be done with this and get out of here.
We're trying to make it fun.
Why did I agree to make this podcast? It was the worst mistake of my life. I can see it in her eyes.
Back in Germany, they tried to get Hess to remember things because he is claiming complete amnesia. They bring in his two secretaries and they try to talk to him about his son. They show him a photo of his son. Hess becomes very agitated and says that he doesn't remember anything. This is supposedly very odd behavior. The secretaries, though weirded out, say that they both believe it was Hess.
And
wouldn't they know?
Yeah. They both think it's Hess, but also
everyone thinks it's Hess except this Hugh Thomas.
And his son his son only knew him when he was 3, and then later on when he visited him all the time in jail.
See him?
Yeah, his wife thinks it's him.
Yeah.
So 2 people don't believe it, and there's conspiracy nuts out there. So, oh my God, it's an episode. Half an episode.
Spandau prison was apparently owned jointly by the U.S., Britain, France, etc., etc. It only held Nazis. One by one, the other prisoners died or were released.
Evil prison.
Until Hess was the only prisoner housed at Spandau at a great expense. It cost like millions of dollars to keep him there.
$1 million a year.
Was the reenactment actually done at Spandau? Do we know?
I don't know. It was kind of
It looks similar to a lot of the photos they had, like the last pictures.
Because he did say something about it takes us to Germany, and I wasn't sure if they actually went to Germany.
They might have went to Germany, but I don't know if they went
Seems
to
like they would have said it. They would have been like, here we are at Spandau.
And they did eventually tear down Spandau, so I don't know if it was before that or not.
Oh, yeah, possibly. So Hess kept to himself at the prison. One prison guard says that it was like he lived in a bubble that was frozen for him back in 1940 whatever.
Sure.
Hess refused visits from his family for years. Hess's son is interviewed for the show and says that he told him that the conditions and the circumstances of the visits were so bad that Hess thought it was better to not have visits. It wasn't until his health began to deteriorate that he finally agreed to let his family come visit him. Hess's wife, by all accounts, thought that it was Hess.
She would fucking know.
Yeah.
Why would he keep going to visit him if he didn't think it was his dad?
So Wolf thought he was murdered, but did Wolf think that it wasn't Hess? I mean, the thing of it is that I'm pretty sure at no time in the show did Wolf Hess, whatever his name is, say he didn't think it was Hess. He thought he was murdered.
Yes.
But I don't think even he
I think that's where the two parts are. I think one of them is like, is this actually him? And then the other part is, was he murdered or not? Because I think...
As far as I can tell, the only people who thought it wasn't Hess was the random prison guard and Hugh
It's
Thomas.
fucking Hess, you guys. Like, he's such a Nazi boy.
Rochelle is an expert, and she says it's him. So there you go.
Right. So one day, Hess was going for his daily stroll through the garden. The guard with him got distracted for a second.
Smoking
when he
and hanging
finally
out with his friends.
remembered that he was supposed to be watching this guy.
The only prisoner. He's supposed to be watching. There's prison. One prisoner in it.
Yeah, you suck at your job, prison guard. He went to look for Hess and found Hess lying on the floor of the garden shed with an electrical cord wrapped around his neck.
Oh, well.
The official cause of death was suicide, but people disagree, and by people I mean Hugh Thomas, including the prison guard, who says that Hess could hardly open his hands because of arthritis. He also could not raise his arms above his shoulders.
Two things. The reenactment, I wrote down a note, Nosferatu goes outside and sees plants. Because it literally looked like Nosferatu, like humbling around and being like...
Why does he get to go outside and have a walk in the garden? He gets to be left alone in a greenhouse?
Yeah. But what the guy at that point talks about, like, he couldn't lift his hands above his shoulders. He didn't put a rope on, like, a pipe or something. He strangled himself by putting a cord against a windowsill latch.
That was lower.
Lower that he could actually It might have been like a couple inches taller than that, but it wasn't like inconceivable if you wanted to kill yourself, which over time he tried to kill himself 3 different ways before this. The first time that you mentioned, he tried to jump over a stairwell and fall to his death. Another time when he was still before the Nuremberg trials, stabbed himself in the leg with a bread knife because that's going to work. I don't remember what the third time was, but he tried to kill himself 3 distinctive times before this. It's not a huge surprise.
But was he murdered?
Like, don't get me wrong, like right afterwards, there were threats on his life before the Nuremberg trials and after that. Like, that's one of the reasons they had the Nazi prison for the 7 guys was, hey, there's enough threats from even just like, okay, we know the Russians are really pissed off at the Nazis, what with the killing a lot of people thing, just like everyone else, we should make sure that's okay. But after 20, 30 years and most of them are gone, that threat's gone.
Rochelle, do you know the real reason we brought you here today?
Intervention? Why?
It's to accuse you
of
murdering Rudolf Hess.
Let me see, how old would I have been? 6, maybe?
But did you murder
No.
Hess?
When did he got in 87? I was 1, so
but
I would have been
murder Rudolf Hess?
Okay, way to deflect. Did you?
If I was... I don't think I've ever left the country until I was like 18 or 12.
You might not remember if you were 1, though.
I could have been a super
Did you have amnesia?
spy.
Yeah, what about amnesia?
Wayne's World version of amnesia, but that's just...
So anyway, I don't even know what else to say about this. They thought that the government was planning on releasing Hess right before he was allegedly murdered. Hugh Thomas is convinced that the British government conspired to kill the fake Hess to keep him from revealing his secret British contacts within the British government during the war.
What do you think he would have done if he was released? Like become an ice cream man? Drove around.
He probably just would have killed himself.
Kill himself or hang out with his wife and wait to die.
Anyway, they claim that there were documents that were going to be released in 2016. I don't know what they say. I didn't look for them.
Because I don't care.
But maybe they reveal the truth.
Of what?
About how this
Nazis?
wasn't Rudolf
That
Hess.
might be the thing.
Do you think
I
it's just
posted
a piece of paper and it says Nazis equal bad?
Maybe that was it.
The truth.
Maybe that was it. Rudolf Hess equals not real Rudolf Hess.
Yeah.
I might have it on Facebook. It might be the
He
UN
did get
paperwork.
most valuable eyebrow. The actor who plays him got most
not
valuable
not the
eyebrow.
actual guy.
And they weren't even his eyebrows, but whatever.
There is an opening of the secret UN archive that yields new Holocaust news, essentially like what people were doing kind of like undercover, like on the British and the American side, being essentially saying like, hey, yeah, we were aware of this, but we couldn't straight up say, hey, Nazis are bad, because it was like the 30s and before invasion, but like what actions were being taken for good and bad.
I'm going to make a bold statement right here on this podcast, which is that perhaps it's you thinks Nazis are bad.
Nazis suck. Sorry. If you are...
Did you see that poll recently that 40% of Americans don't know what Auschwitz is?
Yeah.
What?
I was like, that had to be bad polling data.
It was only millennials, and it was only from a certain area, but it's still like, that's not terrifying. And it also explains a lot of things.
But I really feel like every movie is about how Nazis are bad. Watch some movies, people.
Maybe every older movie.
Well, it
doesn't seem like it's that way anymore.
I'm a very 90s child. No, every movie now is about superheroes. But in the 90s, every single movie was about how Nazis are bad.
And some of the superhero movies are about how Nazis are bad. Have you seen Captain America? It's about Nazis.
That's true. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Rochelle, did you learn anything else that you needed to share? Because I know you did a lot of research for this.
I was amused that he was born and raised in Egypt, and Alexandria, Egypt, and still became like a huge racist asshole. And aside from like him, like there's really creepy quotes because he's a fucking Nazi.
Oh my god, I hated my thing that woke me up in this episode because I got so angry was that his grave. The epitaph on his grave says it was worth the risk. Yeah, that made no sense.
It's worth the risk, or I have dared. Yeah, but they're still allowed.
What? To be a Nazi?
Yeah.
To fly to England to make peace with them so that they can...
I wanted to take a sledgehammer to that grave. I've never wanted to deface a grave more. That made me so angry.
The only thing I can say for Hess is like he's the opposite of Rasputin, where in the right place at the right time, had the right setup, everything like that. But he didn't want power, and he didn't care.
Well, it was worth the risk.
Yeah, it was.
Or he dared to dream, or whatever the fuck.
That is very close. Like, I live, laugh, love.
Yeah. What if that's what his grave said?
The main thing is he was there for the This is a dude that like went to school for like geopolitical bullshit, so he knew some of the.
He went to Nazi school.
Essentially, he went to Nazi school. He learned how to do colonialism and shit like that.
Guys, don't go to Nazi school.
Then he became friends with Hitler, became his doting pupil. I'm just talking over you guys now. Then became his doting pupil to Hitler. And then when Hitler got arrested in the beer hall putsch, he also got arrested. Ended up helping co-write and writing down Mein Kampf, My Struggle, which is Hitler's book, which is such a fucking emo name. My Struggle. My first world white man. I had no issues putting
it on. He only had one ball. Things didn't go out. And did you see that?
That's fucking life, dude. Like, oh my god.
I mean, we all have a struggle.
Yeah. Poor Hitler.
Poor Hitler. Wah.
You guys a little bitch, but whatever. Sorry.
Yes, he was.
Yeah. But that's
the thesis of this episode.
But essentially, like, he was his bestie while he was rising up. Like what happens with like a lot of musicians and other people. Like, oh, he was there in the tough times, but instead of like grabbing money and stuff, he was just there. So, AKA my boy band reference. He was the JC Chazé to Justin Timberlake, and then suddenly he's like, you're kind of Chris. You're going to a different band. I don't even fucking want you anymore. Just go away. Like, he went from best friend to slowly getting kicked out by other people that were a lot more power hungry. So, still Nazi, still asshole.
Blah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
That was pretty much it. But now I have way too much Nazi facts that are all configuring in my head. So, can we do some amnesia so I'm done with this now?
Yes!
We sure can.
Mystery
I've never been more excited to talk about amnesia.
Amnesia.
Not talk about World War II anymore.
This is the case of Patricia Meehan. She was driving in Circle, Montana back in April 20th, 1989. She was a former daycare worker turned ranch hand because she loved animals, and everybody thought she was a sweetie pie. Anyway, at around 8:15, she's driving down Highway 200. Peggy Bueller and her parents, who are in another car, they're driving to Montana, blah, blah, blah. Out of nowhere, a car driving in the opposite direction comes onto their side of the road. Peggy swerves, barely missing a head-on collision, and this other driver, Carol, pulls to the side of the road, but unfortunately, the car hits her. They collide.
Boo.
Carol exits her car without any serious injuries. The wrong way driver also exits her vehicle. She gets out, stares at Carol.
Very creepily.
Very creepily.
In the dark, says nothing, and then just walks away.
She looks at her like, I'm going to be a creepy serial killer for a minute. No, I'm just going to walk into the corn.
Yeah,
pile of the corn.
This very, like, Children of the Corn moment, where she was like, and I'll just go into this field.
And disappear.
So the mystery is, what happened to Patricia? She walked away from that accident, and is spotted, like, 100 times since then, but never goes home and never contacts her family.
They kept calling them confirmed sightings, but never explained, like, why it was confirmed to be her.
The thing is, eyewitness, as we've said before, eyewitness testimony is not what people want to think it is.
Very questionable.
For instance, I keep getting asked as I walked around town if I graduated from a high school around here in 1999. I did not. I'm not from here. But clearly someone who looks a lot like me did. So I'm sure they're like, oh, I saw my,
Do you have amnesia? Liz?
What?
Maybe you did graduate and you're just wandering
but at this
around
point
living
now,
a different life.
I just go like, oh no, but you're not the first person to ask me that. So that they don't feel stupid. But I'm sure they could also, say that was that person. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I didn't understand why it was confirmed
So wait,
to
you
have been
could be
her.
that person's doppelganger?
I could be that person's... I have a doppelganger. And I have one in Las Cruces, too.
Just make sure that, nobody kills off Liz and there's a slightly different looking one.
I do not have a distinctive look. Anyway, there's, so little to this. We'll be through this in, 5 seconds. Don't worry. Cool. So, the police traced the car that was left at the scene. It belonged to 38-year-old Patricia Meehan. She was the wrong-way driver. The police began to search for her, but they had no idea if she was injured or purposely hiding because she caused an accident and fled the scene. They found some shoe tracks and they followed it. By 3 a.m., they were like, all right, we're going to search the next morning. So they came out with dogs. They searched for 5 days, but they never found any more trace of her. There was 2 theories of how she eluded her attackers. One was that she stowed away on a hay truck, which they made a little reenactment of. And one was the more sensible theory that she hitchhiked away.
Hay truck is like, let's go get some apple cider and hang out with the pumpkins.
The weirdest thing ever.
I just assumed that there was a hay truck there at that time, so they're like, well, maybe she jumped on that. But it seems
how would they come up with that?
It's so specific. Okay, so since her disappearance, Patricia has been spotted multiple times throughout the United States. At first, they were wondering if she was trying to avoid prosecution, but that seems really weird. Like, causing an accident and fleeing from the scene of a crime is not that serious of a charge. Or fleeing from the scene of the accident is not that serious of a crime.
Especially since no one died. It was just a crash.
And she knew no one died because she went and stared in the car.
Creepily for a minute.
She knew that person was fine. Yeah. So, I'm sure she felt bad that she caused that accident. Maybe she fell asleep at the wheel or whatever. But
I have 2 theories we'll get to in a second.
It's not that serious. You wouldn't go permanently on the run because that happened.
No.
So, she was originally from Pennsylvania. She had moved to Oklahoma to attend college. She had worked in that field until 1985 and started to move to Montana to work on a ranch. Before her disappearance, her family and friends noticed that she had become depressed and withdrawn. And her mother very helpfully suggested that it was because she hadn't had children.
Thanks,
Mom.
Thanks, Patricia's mom. I don't like you. Okay.
Because that's the only thing that can fill the void in your soul is to produce more children into the world.
Yeah, she was barren, so of course she was depressed.
I like that her mother wasn't saying, that's something she told me was bothering her.
That's
her
just
mom
assumption.
was clearly just assuming that.
It couldn't even be like,
Very
hey,
weird.
she broke up with a boyfriend or hasn't had, a partner. And, it's legitimately she hasn't produced a child.
Yeah.
For me, but also for her, I guess. Whatever.
I wanted grandchildren, and Patricia didn't give them to me, and therefore Patricia was depressed.
So she is dead to me. Maybe.
Patricia... Okay. Psychiatrists believe that Patricia sustained a head injury from the accident, and yet combined with... This is according to Unsolved Mysteries Wiki. Combined with her, quote, previous problems, being slightly depressed and withdrawn. Okay. And may have caused... And yeah, exactly. I was like, what did Patricia do that was so depressed and weird? They had no examples.
No.
She just seems a little bit sad. Maybe it was winter. I don't know. So, since that accident, she's been spotted at least 100 times between Montana and Seattle, mostly at truck stops. They had a reenactment of her going into a diner and demanding a very quick breakfast, and then sitting there for an hour and a half, and saying that she needed to go shopping, and then just acting kind of spacey and odd.
There was some great Bozeman, Montana fashion in that reenactment, though.
Oh, yeah.
Perm bangs on top of bangs. Heavy blue eyeshadow that matched that lady's western shirt.
Yeah. I mean, it's
great.
Very of its time.
That's very 90s.
She was also
matching,
very proud of their 10-minute breakfast.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You want a quick breakfast, you go to that diner.
She was in the right place for a quick breakfast. Too bad she sat there for an hour and a half. To the point where the waitress was like, "Hon, are you okay? Can I help you?"
I thought you had to be in and out.
And then she was just like,
doing?
What? She wasn't, like, really making sense, I guess. But also didn't say that she needed help. And it's not really a waitress's job to, like, insist you get care. I don't know.
Yeah.
So that was one of the confirmed sightings, supposedly. And that was only a few miles away from her home.
They didn't say if she had, like, a distinctive birthmark or something that would have made these confirmed.
I'm looking at the picture of her. She looks like generic white lady.
Yeah, very generic.
She does not
generic 90s white lady.
Yeah.
If you go to unsolved.com, every comment is someone saying, "Oh, she looks like this person," or "Oh, she looks like." I think, like me, Patricia's got a lot of doppelgangers out there. Also, apparently, this is a very common name. So if you're just going to go on Facebook and search for Patricia Meehan, there's a bunch of them. That doesn't mean you found her.
But the assumption that, like, if she had a head injury or for some reason, like, partially forgot stuff or, you know, just a little bit loopy, she's still feasible enough to know to go into a restaurant and get food and has money.
How
and
is she
do
getting
that.
money this whole time?
Yeah.
I was just saying she's just, like, she
I
wanted
guess
to
she
leave
could
in the
be
first place.
panhandling, maybe.
Because what do you think that would be, like, the end time, whenever she left at 89 or whatever, the last time, like, do you think it would be the very end of when you could go if you keep no social media out, that you could just actually start over?
Maybe. I mean, maybe she walked away from that accident and she just went, "I'm starting over," but I really doubt
I doubt that
don't
as well.
think
But
so.
I suppose it's possible. The thing is, this is unsolved. They never found Patricia's body. They never figured out what happened to her. This episode first aired in 1989. In 2011, the police received a composite from a woman found in British Columbia who web sleuth bloggers thought might be Patricia, but then it turned out it wasn't. So they haven't had any credible leads since then. I hope one day they do find out what happens to Patricia. She's on the Doe Network and also in the Charlie Project for people trying to figure out what happened to her. I'm assuming that she wandered off and maybe had more serious injuries.
I don't know. So here was my theory, and this is not supported by any evidence because there's really no evidence. But she was driving the wrong way on this road.
I wondered if she had fallen asleep.
I wondered if she was trying to commit suicide. And when she went and saw those people, she saw the real humans that could have died
in her action.
The process of her committing suicide, and then she decided to go off into the woods and commit suicide by herself.
Else. That makes sense.
Because they said that she stared at them for a long time. It was very bizarre, and then she just walked off. And I think, there's no evidence to support this, but if she was intentionally trying to commit suicide and then she saw, oh shit, like, these people would have died. Like, this family would have died. And then she was still very depressed, and maybe she completed suicide somewhere else.
Or maybe she
makes
just
sense. With
or she just went outside and then had the elements of being outside by yourself.
Yeah, she died somewhere.
And it's quite possible. I mean, clearly her mom didn't think she needed any kind of help. She could have had some much more serious problems, more serious depression. She was at the age when people can get schizophrenia.
Yeah.
It seems more likely to me than she had amnesia and just wandered around the United States forever.
Unfortunately, stigma around mental health, it still exists.
Yeah.
Prevents people from getting treatment that they need. And particularly around suicidal thoughts and people's reactions to attempted suicide is often that people are being selfish or they're trying to get attention, which isn't true. Yeah. So probably Patricia didn't get the help that she needed.
Yeah, unfortunately,
I think your theory makes a lot of sense. I was thinking that she fell asleep at the wheel and then probably sustained like worse injuries and just like died somewhere else.
That's another
or even
possibility.
if not, just had so much guilt of like, I almost killed somebody. Even if she wasn't suicidal, just be like, oh my God.
Well, and it is possible that, maybe she did hit her head and she had a more serious injury and she was disoriented and walked into the woods. Or if she had a serious
concussion, when a concussion took a nap and just never woke up.
And no one found her or figured out it was her. I don't know.
I mean, that is another possibility.
Yeah.
But unfortunately,
we'll
never know.
Case. There's not a ton to it. For her, like...
Mega sad, you guys.
Well, the next one's not going to make you happy.
No. It's supposed to be pick me up. We had to talk about...
That was Lenny Briscoe.
Lenny decided that it was time to party.
Lenny woke up.
Lenny decided it was time
to party. Are we ready to talk about the next one?
Sure.
There's so much, like, sad...
I actually picked a mustache from this one.
So did I.
Was it Detective Bob?
But Bob Carey?
Yeah.
Yes,
I put MVM ? Too. Although I still think it should be reenactment.
Yeah. No, you're
Rudolf
right.
Hess's eyebrows.
I was calling his mustache the Count because it had a bit more of a
swirl
uplift.
I wrote that it looked like a dried shrub.
It
had a
had
twist.
more panache than a typical cop mustache.
But it looked a little like brown and dried out.
Yeah, that's also true.
Looked very much like a barber.
It's like all of the foliage in
Old-time
Minnesota
barber.
right now.
Yeah.
That's kind of what it looked like.
The foliage mustache.
So we're in Arlington, Virginia, May 11th, 1988. It's 3 a.m. Police are called to a local schoolyard where the body of a young woman has been found. She was sexually assaulted and shot at point-blank range. Homicide detective Bob Carrig, he says that he had a sick feeling and felt disgust for crime in general, which makes sense.
Crime, you should.
Thanks for that insight, Bob.
That's the correct way you should feel about it.
It's true.
He's not the Golden State Killer. Yes, high five.
Oh, yeah. He didn't become a cop because he thinks crime is, like, pretty cool.
Fortunately not. We also meet Detective Gay Mercer. She speculates that it may have been date rape, possibly someone that the victim knew. She thinks this because there were no tears in her clothing, indicating that the assault was not forced. This is bullshit.
What the fuck? Like,
I put it in here because I thought it was so ridiculous.
But it's like, oh, no one ever tells you have to take your clothes off. Like, it's only ripped and shredded into pieces.
Yeah, or if he has a weapon or he threatens her, like, he has to literally tear at her clothes like King Kong. Otherwise, it's not force.
Yeah, it makes no sense.
People's understanding of rape, even in a professional capacity, sometimes
it
is
really seemed like Gay Mercer was saying that they were getting intimate and it went too far.
She was
edging into victim blaming.
She was speculating it was someone she knew.
Yeah.
Okay. Except that she's like outside and shot and
gross.
Yeah.
The victim was identified as Veronica Jefferson, a 24-year-old government accountant who had recently moved to Washington D.C. from Oklahoma.
It's really
At the
sad.
time of her death, Veronica was Veronica was working as a finance officer for the CIA, which I was very impressed by. She was a young woman of color during this time, and she seems like she had a really powerful job in the CIA. She was
like moving up.
She was smart and motivated.
Capable and getting her shit done.
And she was driving a Camaro. I mean,
that car was awesome.
She was living her best life, and then this happened.
But
very beautiful.
So there was nothing in Veronica's personal life that would suggest that anyone would have a motive to hurt her. Police found...
She seemed pretty awesome.
Yeah. Police found her car, which was the red Camaro, in a supermarket parking lot. The vehicle was inspected for prints, but it appeared to have been wiped clean.
Wish happened more often.
Yeah, they used a laser.
Fancy
It's
shit.
just like so 80s, and they're like, with laser technology, and it's just like a little like pointer. They look for fingerprints. I love it so much.
This takes us 20 times as long, but it looks so cool, you guys.
Yeah, it did seem like that. So inside the car, investigators found a receipt that showed that Veronica had left the market at 9:30 p.m. Her cash and credit cards were found inside her purse inside the car. This prompted investigators to focus on employees at the supermarket, which I thought was strange. It seems like it could have also been a customer.
Or anybody.
But I guess they had to start somewhere.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask Samantha. So they, in the reenactment, questioned an employee at the grocery store, and I wanted to know if you thought that guy was handsome.
He was handsome.
The guy wearing the red shirt.
Yeah, he was handsome.
And he was like, yeah, I had hit on her before, but she wasn't interested. And I was like, really? Because that guy was pretty handsome.
Yeah, he was, actually.
And I bet he didn't get turned down a lot, but I don't know, he seemed nice. It's not him, everyone. But
it wasn't him. And fortunately, he wasn't pursued further.
No.
Just too handsome.
I was just like, this grocery store has really handsome employees.
He was not the only one, too.
Yeah, I was like, maybe that's why they focused on...
Perhaps.
They're like, we should really look at this market she goes to that's full of hunks.
Yeah.
She's probably
For some reason,
where is that market?
For some reason, the three female police officers are really interested in interviewing all the perks.
Yeah, we have to interview all of these employees. So tell us, what's your workout like?
So Detective Gay Mercer says that one suspect who worked at the supermarket was able to describe her down to her red shoes. He told them that he'd seen her around the market and he kind of had a thing for her, but that she wasn't interested. This was the handsome guy. So they narrowed the field of suspects down from over 100 to just 6. They take everyone's blood because the body fluids found at the crime scene indicated that the suspect had a rare blood type, only found in about 4% of the population. None of them matched, so everyone was cleared.
Rochelle just knew that meant that they were O positive.
Oh, I was wondering if it meant that they were non-secretors, like the Golden State Killer.
That's only 20%.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
O positive is 4%?
I'm
impressed by your knowledge.
If it's
That's
correct.
why we have her here, because she's so smart.
That's if it's correct. I just know that my mom has a very rare blood type, and it's opposite of mine.
So
Do
she
people
can't commit
call
crimes.
your mom all the time to ask her to donate blood?
Yeah, she does.
Yeah.
She has since she was 18.
They get harassed.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Oh, because that's the
they want
universal
their
donor,
sweet,
right?
sweet blood. Yeah.
Yeah, she's given over like 10 gallons, I think, in her life.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
Wow.
a lot of blood.
Wow. Good for her.
She had a difficult pregnancy with me, and she also had other health issues. So when she's like, if I can give blood, that's the only thing I can do that.
Give
so
back.
she's
Oh,
always,
that's
yeah.
so nice.
Good for her.
Yeah.
I bet this person wasn't given his blood. So 4 days after the murder,
He was too
however,
busy murdering.
a dramatic new evidence surfaced when an off-duty police officer claimed he had seen Veronica the night she was killed. The officer claims that he saw her with a man who was driving her car. He saw the woman get out of the car, and he says that she was talking to the man in the car. He said that they seemed like friends, so he didn't think anything of it. I thought it was kind of sad that he thought, if I had only been on duty and I had pulled them over, maybe I could have stopped this. But they weren't doing anything that looked like
suspicious.
a
No.
crime.
Yeah.
He didn't think much of it, and he just continued on
He
to
just
work.
noticed because the person had like driven up onto the curb,
Yeah.
but it wasn't. Like,
It wasn't enough a thing to be like, he was like,
yeah.
I could yell at you about that, but I'm
like
off
not-
duty.
Yeah,
and,
it's like not worth it.
and it's also like
Right.
seeing someone speeding, you're like, that's kind of an asshole move, but whatever. I have shit to do. Fine.
Yeah, he seemed like he felt a lot of guilt, which it wasn't his fault. So this led investigators to believe that the person was someone Veronica knew well. They got a list of Veronica's male friends and acquaintances from her family, but they were all tested and eliminated as suspects. None of them had the right blood type. So the investigation was at a standstill until May 1989, a year after the murder. Two witnesses came forward, Mr. and Mrs. Flanagan, to say that they remembered seeing Veronica in the supermarket 2 hours before she was
I feel
killed.
bad for Mrs. Flanagan.
Yeah, I do too.
Because Mr. Flanagan only remembers her essentially because he was checking her out at the grocery store because she was so pretty.
Class act.
And then saw a dude come up to her and essentially hit on her. And then you can tell, even in the reenactment, he seems jealous.
He does.
Wow.
Yeah.
He's
So-
there with his wife!
Yeah, it's a classy move.
Yeah, and then Mrs. Flanagan says that she saw them again in the parking lot, and she got the distinct feeling that something was very wrong. Veronica kept looking around the parking lot as if she was searching for someone to get her out of the situation.
But she didn't do anything.
But then Miss Flanagan says it wasn't dramatic enough to make me go up to her and ask if she needed help.
Yeah.
I know. And I feel like a lot of people would do the same thing in her situation, so I
you're
don't
like,
wanna...
well, it's really none of my business. But
Yeah. I think about what I would do in that situation, and I,
In the age of now,
we're
since we have
being
cell
honest with
phones,
ourselves.
I have done the thing of like, I'm going to call the store and just let them know, hey, there's a fight going on in this parking lot. Like, it's not a cop situation, but like, if you want to make your security cameras are on or something, like, that'd be good.
Well, and it's one thing if it was more obvious that something was wrong, but she just said she got a bad feeling.
The bad
Right,
vibe,
yeah.
It wasn't anything so obvious that she thought, I really need to go save this girl, so...
It's
And
just
also-
sad.
and also
it's
she's like-
probably a hindsight thing. Which
Yeah.
is like, oh, looking back, like it could have been a bad situation, but
She's like, and I'm already mad at my husband for checking you out, so I know you're doing your own thing, but I have to yell at him, so...
I'm not over here because you're so beautiful that my husband can't stop looking at you. That's not why I'm bothering you.
Or my husband might be a dog. We'll find out. But, like, I have my stuff I'm dealing with, and you don't seem like you're in emergency at this moment. So, bye, stranger, I don't know.
I know.
Yeah. So that's basically where it ends. The result is that it was solved.
Yay!
In August 2005, DNA found was linked to a man named Alfred R. Preto, now considered a serial killer for the additional murders of other individuals, including Warren Fulton and Rachel Raver. Investigators learned that he had lived in Arlington in the 1980s. They now believe he was responsible for at least 9 murders in California and Virginia in the late 1980s.
Why have
He
we
was
never heard of this guy?
extradited to Virginia from California, where he was on death row for a 1990 murder. He was convicted of the murders of Warren Fulton and Rachel Raver and sentenced to death on October 1st, 2015. He was executed by lethal injection.
So he's dead.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we're not going to
He
lose any
is
sleep over that.
dead. Yes. I probably won't. Yeah.
I mean, he was matched to DNA, so...
Did they ever find out why? Was it just completely a random killing? Was it he went on a date and this was back in the day when people
living
had
in
phones?
Jefferson with his wife and child at the time he
I
killed
think it's
Veronica.
just he happened to see her.
Yeah, he
Opportunity?
seemed like he was
Yeah.
a serial killer.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
It's so sad.
I found an article in the Washington Post that announced that the DNA taken from the scene had matched him. And there was a quote from Veronica's father, Henry Jefferson, who said that he was speechless when he got the call from the Arlington homicide lieutenant telling him about the break in the case. He said, "I broke down and started crying." He said, for a 62-year-old man, that's something. He said that he had never given up hope that the case would be solved. So I thought that was really sweet.
I mean,
it's sad, but that's
some peace, maybe.
Yeah, to finally know what happened. And here's the thing: for the longest time, based on Unsolved Mysteries, they thought it was someone she knew, and
nope.
Right.
Turns out it was a random.
Also,
killing.
the sketch that they had based on the eyewitness in the parking lot was a black male, and that's not who it was.
No.
So it's just I mean,
he was.
It's not. You always have to be a little bit skeptical when the suspect is like random black guy did it.
Yeah.
And then this is another
no
instance where it's like,
features.
no.
I forget where he was from, but it was somewhere in South America.
Do we have anything to lighten the mood after that?
No, we have to rate the episode, and then we can be done with it forever.
Good. All right.
So, mysteriousness.
Not that mysterious.
No.
Because the Hess thing really takes up a good half the episode, maybe more. And
even watching the mystery, I didn't think it was that mysterious.
It's not mysterious. It's just not.
And then with the information Rochelle brought us, it's revealed that it was never that mysterious.
No, I think it's a stretch for sure. I think I appreciate that they want to include some things from different time periods, so it's not just like all late 70s, 80s. And I like that they're trying to like mix it up. But that's the only thing I can appreciate about it because it's so boring and not mysterious.
I'm thinking it's a thumbs down on mysterious.
Yeah, I would say thumbs down, even though the Patricia thing is kind of mysterious. Mm-hmm. But it's not enough. And it's also a very short mystery.
Reenactments, I think I'm a thumbs down.
Except for the brows, thumbs down.
Yeah, I mean, the brows were fine, but yeah, thumbs down.
Thumbs down.
Yeah.
Nothing special.
Fashion?
We got some good I would say sideways.
I like the Bozeman, Montana diner fashion, but that was just so brief that I think I'm a thumb sideways.
Yeah.
I'll go sideways on that.
Yeah, and then Robert Stack, we hardly even saw him.
Yeah, saw him in a Nazi
We saw a casual Stack outfit, though, at the very last.
We did get a casual Stack.
Yeah, he had
some khaki pants. I will say sideways just for that.
At one point, I wrote down that it looked like he was wearing thermals underneath his flannel shirt.
I think that might have been true.
That was his Bozeman, Montana, everyman
Stack. He was trying
to
fit in, even though it all looked like ironed and pressed and, like, still, like, really neat.
Yeah.
You
so
know?
I'm a...
Sideways.
Sideways, it's all right. I don't even... What do you rate this on Robert Stack?
I hated it.
I did not like it. Rochelle,
I picked World War II, and I still like, no, 1. I just like this more than Hitler.
Rochelle ended up on another episode that she can't stand.
I think I do. I'm like, oh, they won't like this. I'll do it, sure.
Well, thank you for throwing yourself on the sword because we really needed your expert opinion. And I'm sorry for everything I said wrong. And
I have so much information that makes no sense. It's awesome.
Rochelle, you enjoy learning about World War II.
Yeah.
And you still thought this was a sucky episode.
Yeah, it's...
They just didn't do it well, it seemed like.
They
didn't do well. They had inaccurate
This is not
things.
A real mystery.
The reenactments were a bit meh, except for the eyebrows. Those are spot on, but it's hard to not do that when it's basically like fluffy caterpillars on his thing. Seriously, they are. There's just so many other things you could go with. They could even go like on the occult stuff that Rudolf Hess was interested in.
I would like to know more about the Nazi connection with the occult. I wonder if there's an Unsolved Mysteries.
The Thule Society.
That would be interesting.
No, but there's History Channel stuff on it, or we can find if there is an episode.
I don't have a History Channel podcast, Rochelle. I have a stupid Unsolved Mysteries.
There might be in another season. I don't know. I haven't looked in other seasons. I only looked at a few episodes
ahead. Maybe we could do a special about that or something.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, that's true.
My recommendation this week is, sorry Samantha, a music video.
What? Okay.
Yes.
I'm not against music videos.
Yes, she is. Musical artist Eliza Rickman just released her music video for a song she's had for a while called Pretty Little Head. People might be familiar with her because her music has been featured on Welcome to Night Vale.
Okay.
I saw her open for a band once and was just blown away. I'd never heard of her before, and usually I'm not that interested in an opening act. I just thought she's completely amazing. She's like a totally independent artist who releases her own stuff and tours around, and she did a very big Kickstarter campaign to fund, and I think it broke records, to fund this music video that is like her going to the guillotine and then like her body seeking the head.
Oh.
After
Mariana Antoinette style.
Yes, like afterwards, like the body like goes and finds the head, and then they dance around, and it's very bloody.
So it's like the guy in Hocus Pocus.
It kind of reminds me of the movie Sleepy Hollow a little bit. It has kind of that vibe. Oh. It's pretty cool. I would recommend checking it out if you don't mind fake blood.
Nice.
I enjoyed it, and yeah, that's all. That's my recommendation. She's a really cool musician, so support her. Yeah.
Cool.
Yay!
So I'm recommending another podcast. I feel like last season was the season of book recommendations for me, and this season is going to be the season of podcasts, because I'm listening to there's so many new amazing podcasts out.
And they're all better than us.
Yes. I could have picked so many for this episode, but I really wanted to pick one that I am very impressed with. And typically on the show, we like to promote indie podcasts like us, the little guys, and who deserve more listens than they get. But I'm not recommending one of those podcasts. I'm recommending a new podcast from the New York Times, because it is so freaking good, you guys. It is Caliphate.
Oh.
So it's from the New York Times. It's brand new. There's only 3 episodes out, plus a prologue, which I highly recommend you listen to first. It's not like a trailer. That actually is part of the story. The host is Rukmini Kalamahi, and this woman, there's many reasons to listen to this podcast, but chief among them is how badass this lady is. She is my hero. She has nerves of steel that I can't even fathom. In the, I believe, prologue, or the first episode, you hear her and her cameraman in Syria on the scene of a U.S. airstrike against ISIS, running into the blown up building with trash bags, gathering up like their ISIS paperwork and computers. Whoa. And it's insane. And she explains in the first episode that she does this because she's trying to gain an understanding of who ISIS is. So by reading their emails and their letters, she learns things like internal ISIS communications that amount to basically ISIS human resources. And she wants to, because these people are trying to be boogeymen.
She's trying to figure out the admin system inside of ISIS and figuring out the names of
her thesis. And I'm spoiling things a little bit, so you may want to skip ahead in this review or this recommendation. But her thesis that she reveals in her first episode is that the terrorists want to live in our imagination, and by revealing them for who they are, it removes some of that mysteriousness.
For sure. And
in her quest to determine who ISIS is, she tracks down a man from Canada who, by all accounts, was a, quote, normal person. He was like either a college student or he was living a normal Canadian person's life.
Sure.
And he was radicalized and went to Syria and actually killed people. And they interview him for the show. She goes to Canada and meets him and talks to him about his experience and how he was radicalized and the things that they do. It's so amazing, and I feel like it's a story that isn't being told.
Yeah.
It's a really well done podcast. The host is super good. Of course, it's New York Times, so the production value is amazing.
Even better than ours. Are you sure?
Well, it's hard to top us, but they do have, a bit more money and resources to throw at it.
Room.
So I think it's really well done, and I really recommend it.
Yay!
Do you have a recommendation for us, Rochelle?
Yes, I do, and of course it's something to do with World War II and Nazis.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah,
well, it might be something better than this. I'm sure there's people listening to this podcast that are into World War II and are disappointed in our coverage of it.
There's 2 things. There's an Audible, like an hour-and-a-half thing just talking about the Rudolf Hess flight, which you can look up and try out. I'll send you guys a link on that. Okay. But the book I actually really like, that's history and interesting to me, is from Eric Larson, the same guy that wrote Devil in the White City, a book that we did in a book club a while ago, called In the Garden of Beasts. And it's essentially Berlin.
How many beasts are in this garden?
How many Nazis are there?
Oh, that's a lot.
That's how many beasts.
There's Nazis, there's Soviet spies, there's American ambassador daughters hanging out with all of them, there's people that are getting killed. Yeah, it's a spy thriller, but it actually happened.
But it's real.
Yeah. So Berlin, 1933, William E. Dodd, aka this bumbling, people thought was a bumbling ambassador to the the U.S. to Germany. Mild-mannered academic from Chicago who becomes America's first ambassador to Hitler's Germany. This book tells a true story of love, intrigue, and emerging terror at the American embassy in Berlin during the 12 months that witnessed Hitler's rise to power in 1933. Oh. So it's right at the beginning. It's also, you can see, there's parts you're like, oh, these guys are friendly. And they're like, oh, they're going to a hotel and killing people. Okay, these are the same people. All right. So yeah, there's, but it's all true. And then him telling people in America after when he comes back that, hey, this is happening, and people, oh yeah, sure, whatever. Oh, patting him on the head. You don't know what you're talking about. I lived there. No, it's fine. So yeah, if you really want to have an enjoyable time with World War II.
That book. Well, and Eric Larson tells a compelling story,
yes, he does.
And a lot of people like Devil in the White City. So.
Yeah, so if you like
that's
that at all...
That's Samantha's polite way of saying, I didn't like Devil in the White City, but it's very popular.
I did not like Devil in the White City.
I will say Devil in the White City.
I like the norm.
I like the true crime part. I don't... The World Fair was...
I just wasn't into that.
This one was straight up about the ambassador and his daughter, and then her connections with all the people, and... It was interesting to have not just Germany, it was American and then British people and Russian, and having that kind of mixed together. And you're like, yeah, this is actually mixed up together. It wasn't just good guys versus bad guys. There's a lot of gray in between.
Yeah, more to it. Nice.
So. Also, everyone should listen to the This American Life called Hitler's Yacht, which is one of the funniest things I've ever heard in my life.
Oh, really?
It's about this boat that's, like, contested whether or not it belonged to Hitler, and it turns into this, like, huge... It's so... tears were pouring down my face the first time I heard that. That's gotta be my favorite World War II thing.
Listen to that. Well, you also recommended the How Stuff Works about sea monkeys, which has a Nazi connection.
Oh, yeah.
Which, that was a good podcast, too.
You can email us at perhaps it's you.
Oh, yeah. Are we plugging our shit now?
Okay. Podcast@gmail.com.
I'm so tired from this World War II episode.
And Mayday.
You want to review us, please give us 5 out of 5 Robert Stacks. We only accept 5-star reviews.
Yes. You can find us on Patreon. Patreon.com/perhaps-it's-you. We put out a bonus episode a month. What are we doing this month again? Mothman. Yeah.
Our latest one was about deadly women, deadly delinquents. Check that out.
And then we're also going to do El Chupacabra.
Yeah, that's going to be awesome.
I think. So follow us there. Rochelle, you want to plug your stuff? Where can they find you if they're interested? You have an Instagram, right?
Rochelle.els at Instagram.com. Otherwise...
You like photography, post some cool
photos
stuff.
And stuff, yeah.
I think I'll make a new page for the website for guests so I can link that.
From Nazis
and Aren't you going to talk about Sherlock Holmes? When did you want to start your Sherlock Holmes podcast?
The Surecast.
The Surecast?
The Surecast?
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be called, No Shit Sherlock.
Yeah.
Actually, I grew up near a barbershop called Sherlock Combs.
Awesome. Did you know that...
It's 3 puns. It's all pun. There's nothing left. There's no leftover fat in that.
Well, that's the University of Minnesota has the biggest collection of Sherlock Holmes stuff.
Oh, so your podcast could be going through that.
Yeah.
You're only allowed to do it once a year, and I'm also a nerd that half-asses stuff.
Did you just see how our podcast works? And yet we're the #1 on iTunes.
At some point I'll do something that'll make sense.
Your podcast, we'll make sure to plug it.
Yeah. There'll be trivia and stupid shit. I don't know what it would be, but yeah. Sure.
Yeah, stay tuned for that. Anything else?
I don't think so.
Right.
Happy May Day?
Look, if you need to fall asleep, watch this episode of Unsolved Mysteries.
Otherwise, probably just skip it.
Yeah, just skip it.
I like World War II, but this is something you don't need to give a shit about. Seriously. In the books I have, it's barely a blip. So it's just an anomaly and stupid.
Yeah.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye.